In this podcast episode, Mel Robbins welcomes Charles Duhigg, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and best-selling author, renowned for his research on habits and communication. Together, they explore the complexities of difficult conversations, especially within families and close relationships, and offer science-backed strategies to transform arguments into meaningful connections. The discussion centers on how to talk to people when disagreements feel like cracks in the relationship, and how to stop toxic patterns like kitchen sinking, where one argument spirals into fighting about everything. Charles begins by explaining that many conflicts arise because people are often having different kinds of conversations simultaneously without realizing it. He identifies three distinct types: practical, emotional, and social conversations. Practical conversations focus on logistics and problem solving, such as planning a vacation or deciding dinner. Emotional conversations revolve around sharing feelings and seeking empathy or validation rather than solutions. Social conversations, the most frequent type, involve how people relate to each other and express their identities, often surfacing in discussions about politics, religion, or family dynamics. The key to effective communication is recognizing which type of conversation is happening and aligning with it. For example, when someone vents about a stressful day, they often want emotional support, not advice. Misalignment, such as responding to emotional sharing with practical solutions, can escalate frustration and disconnect. Supercommunicators, Charles explains, are those who can identify the conversation type and respond accordingly, often by asking deep, thoughtful questions that reveal underlying values and beliefs. One of the most transformative skills Charles highlights is the use of deep questions. These are inquiries that go beyond surface-level opinions to explore why a person holds certain beliefs or feelings. By asking, "Why does this matter to you?" or "What does this mean to you?" communicators invite vulnerability and understanding. This approach is especially crucial when dealing with divisive topics like politics, where emotions run high and people often feel unheard. Following the deep question, Charles introduces the technique of looping for understanding. This involves paraphrasing what the other person has said and asking for confirmation, such as, "What I hear you saying is, did I get that right?" This method proves to the speaker that they are truly being listened to, which lowers defensive reactions and opens the door for reciprocal listening. The neuroscience behind this shows that when people feel heard, their fight or flight responses diminish, allowing the more rational parts of the brain to engage. The podcast delves into the challenge of maintaining relationships amid polarized views, especially in today's politically charged climate. Mel shares listener concerns about family members who view opposing political beliefs as unforgivable, creating emotional rifts. Charles acknowledges the difficulty, but stresses that connection does not require agreement. Instead, the goal is acknowledgment, recognizing the other person's perspective as valid without necessarily endorsing it. He emphasizes that many people mistakenly believe that changing someone's mind requires overwhelming them with facts or arguments. Research shows the opposite. Aggressive attempts to prove someone wrong often entrench their beliefs further. The only effective way to influence others is by first making them feel understood and respected. This creates a gray area where both parties can acknowledge uncertainties and shared values, even if they continue to disagree on specifics. Charles illustrates this with a role-play example involving a fictional disagreement about Martians and Venusians, demonstrating how asking about the meaning behind beliefs and reflecting back understanding can diffuse tension and foster connection. This approach applies equally to real-world issues like gun control, where people on opposite sides often share common goals, such as protecting children, even if their methods differ. An important insight Charles offers is that you never have to engage in every conversation, especially those that feel toxic or unproductive. It's perfectly acceptable to set boundaries by saying, "I don't want to talk about politics because it usually leads to conflict. Can we focus on something else?" This empowers individuals to protect their emotional well-being while preserving relationships. However, when difficult conversations are unavoidable, such as addressing family changes after a divorce, Charles advises preparing by acknowledging the potential discomfort up front. saying something like, "This might be an awkward conversation, but our relationship is important to me," helps reduce anxiety and sets a collaborative tone. He also recommends clarifying mutual goals for the conversation, which keeps discussions focused and prevents them from devolving into personal attacks. Charles reframes arguments as potentially healthy expressions of care and concern rather than inherently destructive. The problem arises when arguments become attempts to control the other person's thoughts, emotions, or the conversation itself. Instead, he suggests focusing on controlling shared aspects of the interaction, such as the timing, environment, and boundaries of the discussion. For example, postponing a heated debate until both parties are rested or agreeing to avoid certain topics temporarily can create a safer space for dialogue. Self-control is another crucial element. Choosing to regulate one's own emotional responses rather than trying to control the other person leads to more productive conversations. This self-regulation feels virtuous and can positively influence the dynamic, encouraging reciprocity and reducing conflict. The conversation also touches on how to handle smaller, everyday irritations that can accumulate and strain relationships, like disagreements over chores or noise during work calls. Charles points out that these small issues often represent deeper emotional concerns, such as feeling undervalued or disrespected. Recognizing the underlying emotional context allows couples or family members to address the real problem rather than just the surface complaint. By openly discussing what these small conflicts symbolize, partners can foster empathy and find solutions that honor each other's feelings, preventing resentment from building up. Charles closes with a powerful reminder that effective communication starts with conversations we have with ourselves. Reflecting on what we want from a conversation, what our goals are, and why certain issues bother us, helps us approach others with clarity and intention. This internal dialogue is a prerequisite for the external conversations that build connection and understanding.